Welcome to the Menopause and Cancer podcast, where we speak with cancer patient survivors and incredible experts in their fields to help us find solutions to our symptoms and ideas to improve our health. My name is Danny Binnington, and today I'm talking to one of the most special people I've ever met. Carly Moosah is a breast cancer survivor and coach, and she has really shone the light for me ever since I've met her. I want to bottle her up and I want to share everything she embodies with you on the podcast today. So if you have never listened to any of our other podcast episodes, that's okay. Carly's episode here today on the show is a fantastic welcome to you and to really teach you what we're all about. We're so much more as a podcast and community and not-for-profit organization than trying to help you find solutions to your many stubborn symptoms. We really understand that healing is very different for all of you, that it's very personal, that each of us need to find our own way through. And Carly today is teaching us about her lessons and what she's learned since her breast cancer diagnosis. Let's welcome her onto the show. Carly, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm good. It's so nice to be back. It's been a long time, hasn't it? I think I was like episode 2 when you started, and now you all know how many you've done, but it's a lot.
Yeah, episode 2, and we're now over 138, or I can't remember even exactly when this will come out. So a lot has happened, lots of learning, lots of ups and downs for both of us, isn't it, in all that time, years?
I felt very proud watching as it's kind of grown, and all the amazing things you're doing to support the cancer community with their menopause journeys. It's just been incredible to see. So nice to be back.
Ah, and I saw you recently speaking live at a fantastic event in Cornwall, and your talk was amazing, and I wanted to bottle you up, literally, and just give to everyone that I know, because you are such a treasure and you are such a gift. And so here we are, and I'm bottling you up and giving you to all these people at home listening. Before we go into your life learnings of your breast cancer, not really diagnosis, but what's happened since, right? Tell us a little bit about quickly your diagnosis so that people sort of know where you come from.
Okay, so that's very sweet of you, firstly. And also, I think we're onto something. If we could bottle really lovely feelings up, wouldn't that be great? And then give them to everyone. But we'll do our best today. That, as I said at that talk, it was a really wonderful event, and it was so nice to be able to share my story. My story with breast cancer, and why I feel like I want to share like the lessons that having it has taught me, is because before I got it, I'd lived in so much fear of it for a very, very long time. And because of my mum having it, and my mum died from secondary breast cancer, her mum also I never met because she had died from secondary breast cancer. So there was this like terrible legacy, I guess, of loss when it came to having breast cancer. And I was diagnosed at 37 with triple negative breast cancer, which by this twist of fate came from having a BRCA gene mutation from my dad's side of the family. So I'd always feared breast cancer and feared I might get it because of my mum's, the history on my mum's side. But I'd kind of always thought, okay, well, if I'll get it, it will be in my 50s. So for it to come at 37, I was totally, as I think, even if you think you might get it because of some family history, at some point you'll still be shocked. So it wasn't that I was more shocked at 37, but it really did come like out of the blue. I'd feared it for so long. I genuinely thought it wasn't going to be a breast cancer diagnosis because my older sister was going through treatment for ovarian cancer at the time, also BRCA1 gene mutation. I kind of just thought, what are the chances of us both kind of getting it at the same time? Turns out quite high when you carry this gene mutation. So yeah, I had triple negative breast cancer. I had 16 rounds of chemo, double mastectomy, reconstruction with my tummy tissue, 15 rounds of radiotherapy, immunotherapy all alongside that. finished all my treatment 3.5 years ago in February 21, and have had no treatment since, and have been all good, touch wood, since, which is
Amazing.
great. And where the menopause comes in, obviously being BRCA, I have also had the surgical surgery to remove my ovaries and my fallopian tubes. So thrust
Mm.
into surgical menopause just before my 40th birthday.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Carly. And I wonder how many people are listening to this conversation at home and their stories with cancer also haven't started with their own diagnosis, because we all know someone diagnosed with cancer, and maybe that we've supported a loved one, or we were worried about a loved one, or we've watched a loved one, we lost a loved one, like in your case. It touches us in so many different ways. And then when we have our own experience on top of that, it just adds more complexity, doesn't it? And that worry you must have had as a child watching your mum, how did that feel then, being a young mum yourself and getting the cancer diagnosis yourself?
So I think, again, this is, and we'll get on to the lessons and why I spoke at the event, was I really quickly felt like I had to approach this in just a very different way and not be consumed by that ending that I just knew all too well. I think I said that didn't end well for me, breast cancer. I was with my mum when, when she took her last breath, and that stays with you forever. However, I think it's a funny one because triple negative breast cancer, you get told it's aggressive and it's all of these things, and that could really scare somebody, right? It did the complete opposite to me because I was like, it's a different cancer to my mum. So I think and that looks like, again, all breast cancer diagnoses have come with so much and are terrible or whatever, but it goes to show how you can reframe something, right? Because whereby maybe I should have been like, "Oh my god, this sounds terrible." No, I was like, "Okay, this is gonna be different. My sister's responding to chemo. I'm going on the same chemo as she's on. We've got this BRCA mutation from my dad's side of the family. That apparently responds really well to chemo." So I was just it was continual reframing, but this was gonna be a very, very different story. And I think I really had to do that to myself very early on so as to kind of face it. And face it as my own and almost like claim my own ending. Just it was going I just from the get-go was like, "This is going to be different." Again, even though I felt like a child with my mum, I was 22 when she was diagnosed and 27 when she died. So, I think it's natural as humans, we do comparisons. So for me, it was like, okay, my kids are 4 and 6, and that broke my heart that you know, I breast cancer was coming into their lives so young. However, again, I changed it to that it's gonna be a real, like, life-shaping thing for all of us, and I'm gonna come through this, and they're gonna learn things too. Just anything I could to try and turn the situation, and not in a toxic positive way either, just in a, like, "This is how I'm gonna get through this, and we're gonna get
Mm.
through this together."
And I think this is what I wanted to learn from you so much since I've known you first, because I wasn't ever really able to internalize it like you did. And I really believe how you did it was very natural. It was authentic. It's exactly how you felt. And I always wanted to feel like that and be like that. And I just couldn't do it. And that's why a lot of times I listen to our conversations over and over again, because I do bottle you up because I want to be working towards that. And although my cancer diagnosis is a long time ago now, I feel in a much better place, but it's taken me so long to get to this much better place. And however people are feeling, you just can't change it sometimes, but there's a lot you can do. And I learn a lot from your life lessons. Um, and so what was your first one? What would you say is like your biggest first sort of
I think,
life lesson for you?
number 1, and I think it does get a lot of airtime, and I think it probably gets a lot of eye rolls too, but I have to stay true to myself, and it is gratitude. For me,
Mm.
it's such a game changer. And I guess, and I don't know whether I feel it differently since having had my own breast cancer diagnosis, but there was such a perspective shift. And I think that physically feeling so terrible and all the side effects of the chemo and the surgeries and all the things that were going on there, you just have a different appreciation for when you feel good, right? And for these little things that maybe I kind of see it as a little bit like blind to before having this. And you know, like I said, I had to try and convince myself that um my breast cancer diagnosis was going to have a positive ending. But whilst also saying that, you cannot help when you hear that you've got cancer, think this, this this might, you know, this might be a lot shorter, my experience as in this lifetime in this physical body than I ever really thought it was going to be. And that is such a big kick up your, you know, behind, however
Yeah.
you want to say it. And so for me, gratitude really became like this foundation, right? And it's remained and it is still there. Um, and I think it's there. And like I said, 3.5 years on from my treatment finishing, whereby I'm not in that kind of running on that adrenaline of going to be okay. And, life has just been lifing as it does for everybody. That gratitude remains because I know I keep close that every single day I am
Yeah.
so grateful to wake up to see it again. Um,
Mm.
that is truly how I feel, even in the really difficult stuff. And there's been such difficult stuff, that maybe I don't talk about as openly on social media and things, but that that's remained. And I think that for me is the key because it is so powerful. It also has loads of scientific research
Yes.
will say,
Hmm. Hmm.
physically it's really good for your health. Like it, lowers your blood pressure, it lowers your stress hormones, it increases your endorphins. There's so much positivity around if you can introduce gratitude into your life. You can't be in a state of fear and a state of appreciation at the same time. So, the more you kind of nurture that way of maybe reframing. And I was actually having a conversation with girlfriends just this morning and they were saying someone had told them about this, and it's such a powerful one. And I spoke about it in my speech. I don't, not, oh, I have to do another school run in the pouring rain. We live in London. The weather's always awful. Um, I get to and that simple change is huge. It's huge, and
It's huge.
is the difference between, I think running full throttle down a path of victimhood to being a bit more the hero of your story and not allowing external stuff to continuously, I guess, make us feel, I don't know, less lack
Yeah.
abundant. It's an abundant
Yeah.
thing. Um, which actually reminded me that when I was diagnosed, I was doing a 21-day abundancy challenge. And I was in this WhatsApp group with some friends. I've never meditated before this challenge ever. It just was, I didn't really understand. I didn't understand really what it was. I might have done in like a yoga class, like a bit of breathing or something, but not meditation in the sense of this abundancy challenge and how it was framing it. And every day it was Deepak Chopra, and we were doing a meditation and then a kind of like task alongside that meditation. And it was day 7 when I found the swelling under my armpit. It was day 14 when I found out I had breast cancer. And it was day 21 of the challenge that I found out it hadn't spread further than my lymph nodes. I meditated every single day during that time because of this challenge. I didn't, I was already in it. By day 7 of finding my lump, I was already really enjoying it and really feeling like lighter, I think, in myself. And that was super powerful. And that challenge, that abundancy challenge, it was all around kind of this, the gratitude for the small things and connecting you more to all of that and how abundant your life is. And if you just by changing how you view it, like instead of being,
Mm.
"Oh, I don't have, the big house." But what do you have? It was so powerful. So gratitude, gratitude, gratitude.
I love that. I definitely share that with you. I think I had that before cancer as well. My mum's one of those super grateful people, and she never has to practice it. It's just her. I never have a normal cup of tea. It's always lovely. Every tree in autumn is just astonishingly beautiful to me. And actually, I was having a walk the other day with one of my 16-year-old daughter, and she stopped and said, "Oh, Mum, isn't this tree beautiful?" And she took her phone out, and I thought she's mocking me, because that's what I would always do. But she wasn't mocking me, Carly. She actually did it. She stopped out of appreciation for this beautifully glowing autumnal tree, and she took a photo. And I almost had a little giggle to myself, thinking that was me thinking she's going to just take the mickey out of me. But actually, I've embodied this into her now, and it was amazing to watch, for a 16-year-old. It was lovely. And it's the internalizing, when it becomes part of you, when you don't have to do it anymore as a practice, when it just becomes part of you. That's amazing. And your lessons are part of who you are. And I think if anyone is listening at the moment, they might practice them, and they might be reminded by your message about them. But with practice, they will become their own story as well. And I think that's the beauty about it.
But that is the thing, isn't it? That's why, and maybe that's why it does get the eye rolls. Is like you start and you go, oh yeah, what's like, practicing gratitude or writing a gratitude list really going to do? Like, really, if you're feeling in a really terrible place, then of course it's not gonna be
Mm.
a quick fix. It's not gonna be an immediate thing. However, like you said, the more I don't know, it's that phase fake it to make it, I guess, right? If your brain is more prone to like slightly, like before my diagnosis, it wasn't that I was a negative person. I wasn't again I was a positive person, but I did struggle quite a bit with mental health, with low self-esteem, with depressive thoughts and things like that. So I think that's where I think it's when you say if you practice and you practice and you practice, and then before you know it, a rainy, gloomy day is not upsetting you because you're like, oh no, look at that. The magic, the rain is that, everything just becomes like a little bit more heightened and a little bit more like in kaleidoscopic color, let's say.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. What's lesson number 2?
So takes me to my little tattoo here, my clay and my paws. Um, Play more. Just be playful, embrace playing, connect with that inner child. I I think I realized when I was diagnosed, again, this was just my experience, my thing. The day I was diagnosed, because my older sister was going through treatment and was having success, and she was stage 4 ovarian cancer, and she was having like an amazing response to chemo, and all every doctor was amazing, amazing. I just called her up that day. What do I do? Just tell me. I want to be okay. I want to do anything I can to help. So I just did what she was doing. I did not do my own research, but I did stop drinking that day because she had cut alcohol out of her diet. And what I came to realize when I was going through my treatment and stuff was like, I was a really well, I say I was a really fun. You'd have to ask my friends. I think I was a really fun person before cancer, but a lot of that fun did come, from nights out and being like at the party and few drinks. That was just how life was, and that was not to say that that was bad at all. However, when I was doing the abundancy challenge, one of the tasks they asked was what name 3 times you feel you're most alive. And interestingly, potentially to do with the meditation that day, the things that I tuned into were all things I'd let go, like the riding a bicycle down a hill, like as a child, that wind in your hair. I think I wrote rollerblading because I had loved art, like just loved it. And a lot of it was to do with actually wheels and transport for me because there was ice skating as well. But you suddenly go, hold on, those are 3 things I have access to. If they're making me feel my most free and my most kind of like, you know, childlike and playful, then why am I not doing them? So I ordered some pastel colored unicorn rollerblades when I was going through treatment. And I remember going to see my surgeon after my double mastectomy and saying, "When can I rollerblade?" He was like, "How good at rollerblading are you?" I was like, I'm all right. I was really good as a teenager. Like, I feel quite confident on them. He said, "If you're happy to go, if you feel confident, go for it." And that was it. I've got like my really short hair, and I'm got my blades on, and I'm off. And it was just really joyful. And I think I really connected with that playfulness that I just kind of parked or hung up my skates on, you know what I mean, so to speak. And I think that there is something just, yeah, amazing. I think there's the quote, I've shared it, and it was lovely. Chris Hellinger, who founded Copperfield, who first told me about this quote, said, "Native medicine men ask the sick 3 questions. They say, when was the last time you sung? When was the last time you danced? And when was the last time you told your story?" That is, that goes to show the power and the healing in that just freedom and play and letting go
Yeah.
and just having them just fun, 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 fun as much as you can. Life is so hard, right? So just to lean into those joyful moments, allow them.
Mm. I love that so much. I love that because I have seen the photo of you rollerblading. And I just think it's absolutely genius because we say to people all the time, we have to maybe redefine what brings you joy, right? And because that changes, how do we exercise? That changes after cancer. Sometimes they're running and then in menopause doesn't work for us anymore. And maybe it needs to be something different. But actually, when you reframe it and ask what made you feel the most alive, you haven't got to worry about how to exercise or what brings you joy. You tap into the feeling rather than the doing.
It's not exactly it's
It's not
yeah,
the doing, it's irrelevant.
whatever. And the things that bring me joy now are not things that I ever realized brought me joy before cancer, like going for a pond swim this week in the
Mm,
cold
mm,
pond. Most joyful thing, like, it's different. The joy I feel it from things now is just so different. But it doesn't, not everyone has to jump out of a plane. I have jumped out of a plane, but we're not saying do those things. The things that bring you joy could be meeting your friend for coffee and making that time and prioritizing that, right? And just giving yourself that permission to
yeah,
allow it in, to make space for it, to not get too busy just with the day to day. That
yeah.
happens. But also I think and it goes hand in hand with gratitude. If you're more grateful,
Mm,
more present, then you're just gonna be experiencing more glimmers, as
mm.
they say, right? And the glimmers
Yeah.
add up to big, joyful, sunny days.
Gosh, I wonder if everyone listening to this now, if people think what brings you that feeling of being the most alive? And sometimes we might not know in the moment, but then it's great to go and explore that again, isn't it? And really rethink of what happened in my childhood, what happened when I was a teenager, when I was a young person in my 20s. When did I feel most alive? Like, it's such a good question to ask yourself.
That is it, isn't it? And when I've spoken to people in the past, whether it's through like the coaching stuff or just general conversations, if you do go back and say, like, when you're a kid, before life gets complex and you've got your bills and you've got, I don't know, the alcohol comes in and or the ego takes over and you're more concerned about how you're being. What is it? What did you do? And it could be as simple as like, I mean, I used to love stamp collecting. Not that I'm going to stamp collect now, but if I did like start to collect something that probably would bring me joy, like puzzles bring me joy. This is not going to be for everyone. Do you know what's bringing me so much joy at the minute? A Sudoku. I don't know if I've said that right.
Gosh.
Every night doing that. It's not gonna be your joy. It's not gonna be but they're going to be little things like that and it might just be a really lovely cup of,
Mm,
favorite coffee. Just make
mm,
that time and work it out and start a list or something of those things that You know, you do feel your most, I think it's noticing, it's becoming aware. Become aware of
Yeah.
what you're doing, who you're with when you feel that
Mm.
feeling that you wanna kind of bottle, like we were saying.
Mm. Well, I'm not sure if I should share this, but I think when I look back into, say, my teens, the feeling that did make me most alive was getting absolutely hammered with my friends and just not caring about tomorrow.
No, the thing is it is to think back, to kind of remove any alcohol or anything else
Yes, I know.
that might, change your alter your state of being to kind of
But you know what I think comes with it? We just didn't care about the next day. You didn't worry about your hangover. You didn't worry. You just went for it, isn't it? That feeling of just going for it into the night and whatever happened will happen. And whether you get spat out at 7 o'clock the next morning, it wouldn't matter. You know, the carefreeness. I think when I really, really look at it, it wasn't the getting drunk with my friends. It's probably the feeling of being carefree and not worrying. And I wonder whether now I can recreate that. Of course I can, in other ways, isn't it? Without the big net and the
that
bender.
is it, and it when we say carving out time, it's like you going with your girlfriends for a weekend
Yeah,
away, because then you are not clock watching. You are not thinking, "Gotta be there, gotta be doing this." That I just went for the day with my sister and a couple of friends. We went somewhere in the morning. Even just that, the day I didn't have to get back home, like, it
yeah,
changes how you feel in a moment, and it allows your nervous system to relax, right?
yeah,
I think when you talk about the carefreeness, the most I can explain is, I don't if you know about the Copperfield treks. So I've done
yes,
2
yeah,
Copperfield treks, and you can't explain that feeling really unless you've done it, and I think you've hit the nail on the head. So much of it is you just get to be who you are, and you're walking and you're talking, and the physical challenge is hard, but you don't even really have phone reception, so that's to the side. You are just in the moment, and there's no,
wow,
food shops to do, or there's no lists to remember, or this,
yeah,
that. You just it's
yeah,
all someone's making you food, someone's telling you what time you've got to wake up. It's as close as it gets to maybe being on camp as a kid, right? And
yeah,
yeah,
amazing.
and it's so life affirming, like, to do something like that, and you've got the element of doing a challenge as well, so you feel like
Yes.
trust with your body again. So, yeah.
Mm. Amazing, amazing. Oh, Carly, I'm loving chatting to you. What's number 3 on your lessons?
Sorry, I have to remind myself, menopause memory. Talking of the treks, it's saying yes to more things.
Yeah.
It's, in memory of too many beautiful people that don't get to, right? And I think being a part of, for anyone that maybe, I don't know if you get to watch this, I just showed my lightning bolt tattoo, which is, my lucky Nikki, my friend, started. And it's a real reminder to go grab life. It's a real reminder of the privilege that we get to. And I know that getting breast cancer diagnosis when I did, um, these are all these lessons kind of are in one big package, right? So they're all kind of, they're not necessarily mutually exclusive, but I just say yes to things because I'm like, I think when you face your own mortality, nothing really is as scary as that. And it's not to say the feelings of fear don't crop up. They do. I get them. I get them before talking to you now. I definitely get them before talking at that the conference where I did my talk. Um, but I don't allow it to let me say no. I just am like, oh,
Mm.
it's uncomfortable, but yes, yes, I will say yes. I will say yes to that. I will say yes to jumping out of the plane, even though I was terrified. Just all those things. And I think that I think it's a wake up call to just do the thing that you're maybe putting off, or you're scared of, or you're scared that someone might judge you. I feel, and this comes hand in hand with menopause too. I think part
Mm.
of being menopausal now is it's definitely given me that, like, who cares? if that person thinks, I'm an idiot or I'm cliche. Like, I've just got to honor who I am, and that's what I will do. And so I think when keeping kind of close that life is short, that just to grab it and do the things that maybe scare you sometimes. And
Mm,
my favorite
mm.
phrase, which I connected with, which I kind of wrote it when I was writing something during treatment, was less fear, more fierce. And that is what I wore on the cape that I was wearing. I've got a sparkly cape. But I think that just reminds me, like, the fear is always going to be there for things. It's going to crop up. Life, it's going to make us feel, even awkward conversations, they can be scary. But to just step into that, like, I can do this.
Yeah,
Like, we've done some really hard stuff in our lives, right? And also, we've survived every single hard day where we thought,
yeah.
are we going to get through this? We have. So, therefore, just channeling that energy, I think.
Mm, And I think everyone listening to our conversations has been through so much in their own way. And the difficult days aren't the days where we had active cancer treatment, where we had time in hospital. The difficult days are all of the days in between, aren't there? And the days that follow and the days before where you worry. The difficult days aren't the ones that we were prodded on. They're when you're on your own with your thoughts and your worries and the uncertainty of the future. And there are so many of those. And I think it's so much easier to say yes when we start saying no to half the things we shouldn't be doing in the first place because we've been conditioned to be these good women. That winds me up all the time.
Honestly, Danny, part of my saying yes is actually honoring the no too, which
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
so productive, but it is there, is that when you're, I am not saying go out and say yes to things that make that that don't feel right to you. Like, that's different, right? It's saying yes to the things that you are putting off because of fear. But oh my,
Yes.
it's actually really truly recognizing when something does not feel right within your body and going, nope, that is
Mm,
not for me, and I'm stepping away from that. And
mm.
that's saying yes to, like,
Yeah.
yourself. That's so big.
Yeah. And you did look amazing in your cape. I mean, you stood there on this big stage with your sparkly, glittery cape on, with your very long blonde hair. You just looked incredible, but it took, I'm sure, a lot of bravery. I mean, how many people talk at a corporate event with a big, sparkly cape on saying, less fear, more fierce? It was just fantastic. And you just embody every single one of your life lessons that breast cancer has taught you. You embody it with every ounce of your body. It's just absolutely incredible to watch you as well, because I know you, and so I know you live these lessons. You don't just talk about them. You are those lessons. Yeah.
I mean, it
Thank you for
helps that
those.
I've got them tattooed on me. That also
Yeah.
essential. I never had tattoos before cancer. Gosh, it changes you, doesn't it? In many ways that surprise you, and I think it's keeping that openness to where life is gonna take you, and that just, yeah, enjoying the process is very much
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah. In all of the times where you had to manage or sort of navigate more uncertainty, when you were preparing for your ovarectomy to remove your ovaries, when you maybe had to make difficult treatment decisions, which other one of your life lessons sort of helped you through when it's ongoing? After active cancer treatment, it's ongoing often, isn't it? It's not like there is an end in sight. It's like, oh gosh, now I'll be in menopause.
Absolutely, I think that's a huge, part. I've since trained as an end of life doula and done that because,
Yeah.
and it all kind of becomes very much part of the same thing, which is grief never ends. Um, you know, Once you get a cancer diagnosis, you can't go back to the person you were. That's a huge grief. That is a grief that you carry, and you have to, you know, process and adapt. And yeah. So I think there is no going back. And I think this is where the next two, they kind of come together. So I will group them together, which is the things that have helped me so much in my darkest times since my diagnosis, and kind of in my when I've really needed to, dig deep and been, because even though I said at the start, I went into my treatment being like, this is going to be a different story. When my treatment finished, I was really not in a good place. I was mentally not. Fear of recurrence was high. I felt so physically weak and changed and didn't, there was so much going on. And I was referred during radiotherapy, I was referred to an oncology counselor. And I've had a lot of therapy in my time. Like I said before, breast cancer, since my teenage years, I've had therapists for various different things. This particular person, I feel, and maybe again, I was doing the abundancy challenge. I've embraced a more spiritual side to myself, I think, since my diagnosis. I do feel like the timing was so perfect for me to meet this therapist. He was trained in compassion focused therapy, and I've had so many therapists, and I've never heard of that. And to be honest with you, I don't even think compassion wasn't a word that was really part of my vocabulary until I met him. It just wasn't. I talk about kindness and I talk about, words around it, but not actually compassion. And it was just an amazing experience with him where he taught me about this type of therapy. And I say taught because it wasn't that I went straight into talking about where I was at and this, that. We had quite a few sessions where you really hone in on what compassion is. What does that
Wow.
word mean? What is a compassionate voice to you? And we did this at the conference where he got me to do it and I passed it on, is to think of if you struggle, which I did before my diagnosis, to have a compassionate voice for yourself. Um, Obviously, the aim is to be compassionate to others and to yourself, okay? My mum always said to me, she called me caring Carly. She said, "Why can't you take the advice you give your friends?" This is real. I think it's very typical of a lot of women, right? We're always worrying about others and not really being very kind to ourselves. We're always everyone else's best friend, not really our own best friend. So the compassion for others was high for me. The compassion for myself was pretty much non-existent. And he really taught me how to cultivate this compassionate voice within me. And that is such a game changer. And it's so what he said is think of someone in TV or film that kind of has that kind of voice, just a character, because that can help to start with. And I think we came together to that we would use Aslan from the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And he just that character just incorporates that that wisdom, that non-judgment, that caring, that the kindness, almost the higher power, right? If we're going a bit spiritual. Similarly, I think Dumbledore is one that kind of gets used. But it's that person that when you are having a bad day or when you are feeling let's say in victim mode, and we all are allowed to. We are humans with so many complex, messy emotions, to not judge it for a starter, to be to not
Yeah.
beat ourselves up. Oh, but I should be more grateful. I know I talked about gratitude first. That's why it's not toxic positivity. The compassion is so important because you have to sit with those feelings. You have to
Yeah.
sit, if you've got a scan coming up and you are feeling anxious and you are feeling like catastrophizing and everything that those scans can do, and you're feeling like, a bit smaller and a bit shakier. If you're mean to yourself in that moment, that's not going to help. It's never going to help. But if you're kind to
Mm.
yourself, gently talk to yourself. This is to be expected. You've been through this. Scans are scary, but you've had it before. It will pass. All of that talk. If you can start to cultivate it, and eventually, like we said about the gratitude, it becomes part of it begins
Mm.
rewiring. So I don't now think of
Yeah.
Aslan ever. In fact, I just felt like that kind of oh, I felt nostalgic bringing him up again, but I have that voice is my own now. from thinking about it and from having that understanding that I want to be more compassionate to myself for doing the best I can, but also that pause, which is part of my pay pause, and keeping up the meditation and the journaling. Um, ahe- Anything tricky, I find writing so cathartic. Again, that's for me. Before my having my ovaries removed, I wrote them a letter. I did the same for my breasts. I think I I really think it's so important to give your feelings that voice, to allow them space, and to never, you know, we the more you tell yourself you can't feel something, the more it's just gonna stay. It doesn't go. The only way for a feeling to really pass through is to allow it that space to, you know, all feelings are important. There's no I know we all want to feel joyful and happy all the time, but that's not a reality. Like, that is gonna lead to a feeling of complete failure because life can be really difficult, so we have to allow space for that. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I think those 2.
It's so hard to be compassionate to yourself for many people, isn't it? Because cancer changes us physically, mentally, emotionally, and then the menopause really changes people's. People are often very irritable, their mood is all over the place, and they really dislike themselves for their own behavior. That irritability, that being angry all the time is very common. The anxiety on top of it, super, super common. And it's very hard to like these sides of yourselves. We haven't invited it. We haven't asked to be like this. We haven't asked to be changed. And then suddenly we're like rocking up with this changed personality. It's very easy for the first go to be rejecting it, isn't it? We're rejecting a side of the person we've become because we haven't invited it. We're surprised that it happens.
So much anger, right, towards it. Like,
Mm,
there can be so much anger towards, like,
mm,
why that whole "why me?" Like, "Why is this happening
yeah.
to me? Why am I now in the menopause?" Or,
And actually, for years, I was thinking I should be doing much better than I was. And I was really hoping for my therapist to help me and maybe explain to me that it was okay how I was feeling. But I don't think I've ever met a compassionate therapist. And so I was always finding strategies to feel better, to cope better, to get on with life better. So I always had the feeling I could do and should do much better than I actually was. Whereas maybe I did pretty well for where I was, you know?
absolutely, and I feel like, isn't that the point of therapy, is not to kind of, if you come out of that feeling like you're not doing enough, then that's like the complete opposite to what therapy
Yeah.
is.
Can do for you.
Um,
Yeah.
there is obviously there's a real time and a place for strategies, right? And they are so important. And a lot of my therapy before this particular therapist was around that. Absolutely, there was,
Yeah.
and everything has its place. I think it's it's individual, isn't it? And for me,
Yeah.
the compassion just really changed everything. It was just a humongous game changer. And the kinder I have been to myself, and the more I think I said, it's okay. Again, it's uncomfortable to say, but I do love myself. Like, and that is uncomfortable for me to say because for so long I didn't, but I do. I've really got a lot of compassion for where I'm at and everything I've faced and everything I've been through and who I am as that person today.
Yeah.
And that's huge. That's just huge. So I think, yeah,
Mm.
compassion.
We did we did a lot of work around in our Empowered Menopause program this week, actually, and I got people to write down two lists. And on the one hand side, I asked them to write down all of the things they wanted to get out of the program, the problems they wanted fixing. And it was hot flushes, it was joint ache, it was not sleeping very well, it was making difficult treatment decisions like should I go on HRT? I don't know where I'm at. It was about should I stay on my aromatase inhibitors or should I come off them? I've got really big side effects. So it was making difficult treatment decisions or fixing problems. So that was a big to-do list. And on the other side, I said, if we ask self-compassion, today, right now? What can you do for yourself right now, today? What would you write down? And it was things like, oh, just 10 minutes to take a big breath. That would be great. Or to go out for a 15-minute autumnal walk. The sun is out over lunchtime. Or it was turning up to actually really gentle yoga nidra, where you don't need to move even, where you're just lying down and you're a soothing voice. And so then we looked at the list to the left-hand side of all of the big jobs we wanted to sort of get done. And I said that goalpost is always going to change and always going to move, because as soon as you found a solution to one problem, you've got another one to add to your list. You know, you got rid of your joint ache, maybe you've got vaginal dryness. And I didn't want to sound too doom and gloom, but those things are the things that always keep our to-do list going, because there's always more stuff. And at the same time, every single day we can ask ourselves, what can self-compassion do for me right now? What do I need today? And those are the things that are going to improve the quality of our life every single day, aren't they?
That is exactly it, Danny, and that is hugely powerful, right? I had a friend said to me recently, "Oh, you're fine in the menopause, aren't you? You're doing absolutely fine." And I said, there are things like, and I could have spent this whole episode probably talking about all the things that bother me and the things, or what I'm taking for them and this, that, the other. But also, what is that word where you put your energy, the energy
Yeah,
stream is
I know. I always say what you focus on expands. That's why sort of
where,
where
where energy goes,
energy goes,
something flows. I don't know. I can't.
flows.
We'll have to look it up and send it to one another. But there is that. There is that as well. And like, whilst I've been talking to you right now about all this stuff, I definitely haven't thought about any of the negative things that sometimes
No,
me about my menopause, because
no.
we've just been so present and, all the things. We're having a pause from our lives to talk to one another. I've said yes. We know we've had a really compassionate, connected conversation. It's been playful, feeling grateful. So it's all just come in and it's been just really a wonderful time. So it's all kind of gone to the side, but it is still there. It's still there.
Yes.
And I think
It's coexisting. Yes, you're right.
the and, isn't it? It's that very important and grief and joy, gratitude
Mm.
and sadness. Like they can be there
Yeah.
together. There's room for it all.
Yeah. I just had a quick Google because I wonder if everyone at home is going to go, I know it. I want to tell Danny and Carly. Well, there is one thing that came up: where focus goes, energy flows. And where energy flows, whatever you're focusing on grows. In other words, your life is controlled by what you focus on. That's why you need to focus on where you want to go, not on what you fear, which is actually what you've been saying all along, isn't it? More fears, less fear. Um,
Love that. Okay, I'm going to screenshot that quote after this chat.
Yeah, maybe I'd drop it in the show notes. Carly, if you had one last lesson that was important to you, that got you through in all those years in navigating this, what would it be?
What would it be? I think it would just, and it's timely because yesterday was World Kindness Day. It is that, just really try and focus your energy on being kind to yourself. Because,
Mm.
like you rightly said, we didn't ask for this. We don't ask for cancer diagnosis. We don't ask to be thrust into the medical menopause, the surgical menopause, and everything that can come with that. And I think it makes me the saddest to think that there are women going through the menopause who are being unkind to themselves as well. So if there's any takeaway from this, it's to kind of give yourself, Mel Robbins says, high five yourself in the mirror. Just give yourself a pat on the back or a high five or just a hug. And yeah, come, like, again, I said, no, I shouldn't care about people judging me, but truthfully, because for being cliche, I am quite cliche and I'm happy with that. It's coming home to yourself. Just give yourself that hug. We come into this world in these vessels and we leave it in this, and we are with ourselves 24/7. And it really is just be kinder. One little thing, do one little thing kinder to yourself and start to build that, because that's who we're stuck with, right? You said it, those quiet moments where, yeah, befriending myself was the biggest thing. And that was the biggest change since having cancer.
Thank you so much, Carly. I will continue to bottle you up. And what you embody, all of the things you really truthfully embody, I know they will help so many people who are going to listen to this conversation. I'm so grateful. It's my reminder, every time I meet you, it is my reminder for that self-compassion, that kindness. And actually, as I was listening to you, I thought, yeah, it's so, so true. We go through all of this and then we think we want to show everyone how strong we are, how well we do, how quickly we recover. We're so proud that we don't get more infections or that we don't get colds on top of everything else. We're so proud that we bounce back. I think, telling people that I bounced back into the yoga studio teaching a class 4 days after I had removed my ovaries. But why? Who was I going to impress? I know myself. But like, why? Where is that toughness for so many of us coming from? And it's so nice to be kind to yourself and so important to be compassionate, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that pushing, bouncing back quickly and things like that, that was me before I got getting breast cancer. That beforehand, I'd be the one at work, like, you know, so unwell. I'd be like, "What are you doing? Go home." Never pause. That's why pause is my tattoo is so important, because I really did. Like, after my oophorectomy, I was like, 2 weeks of watching Sex and the City from start to finish. Like, I just really took that pause to heart. And yeah, it's still very important in my days. But I think
Mm,
it's so nice to slow down and to
mm.
not feel like we have to be doing as much, right? The famous, again,
Great.
quote, "We're human beings, not doings. We need to be more." And even that is start with 5 minutes a day of meditation. Do that. Just 5 minutes, phone down, time for yourself, and build up from that.
I'm going to press stop immediately, turn it all off, and take myself off for 10 minutes and bottle you up. Thank you so
Thank you
much,
for having
Carly.
me back. It's been so lovely.
Carly is amazing. I love chatting to her so much, which I'm sure that's come through in the episode. I'm going to really remember, maybe I'm actually going to write down her lessons as a little daily reminder in my notebook, in my journal, on my bedside table. And I've been really plowing through so much over the last few months. We had so many exciting opportunities come our way for our Menopause and Cancer not-for-profit organization. We're supporting people all over the world, America, Canada, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, so many European places. And we've had so many doctors connect with us. And there is so much I want to get done because I know so much needs to get done that sometimes, actually a lot of times in the last few months, I've really put myself last on my priority list. And talking to Carly about being self-compassionate, about being kind to yourself, about stopping, about reconnecting what made me feel alive are such important life lessons for all of us, whether you've been affected by cancer yourself or you're supporting a loved one to go through it. I love talking to Carly, and I hope a lot of this will resonate with you too. Can't wait to chat to you on next week's episode.